we start off season 2, episode 1, with the hottest trending legal case currently pending in 2023.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt. In fact, Johnny Depp is old news.
Nothing compared to this one.
Okay, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Idaho. And we're talking about Bryan Kohberger.
Okay.
And you're going to tell us a little bit about what you think as a criminal defense attorney about that probable cause affidavit.
So they in the Moscow, we'll call it the Moscow murders. I'm sure somebody will come up with a more sensational name than that, where the 4 students were murdered in their house in Moscow, Idaho. They released to the public, because they haven't been talking much about the case at all, the probable cause affidavit that is kind of, I would assume it's like Iowa's preliminary complaint. Mm-hmm. It's the initial charging document that says, here's why we think we have enough to arrest and charge this dude with 4 counts of murder.
And burglary.
Oh, they added did burglary. Have they done anything with the death penalty yet?
I don't know if officially, but I think the prosecution's office has come forward and said that they're going to be pursuing the death penalty.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
So we got that. We went through it. You got some information. Start into it.
Well, with the affidavit, I read through it as a 25-year-old girl, and I will say this is not a normal probable cause affidavit. We don't have probable. It would be like a criminal complaint in Iowa. Usually there are a few sentences. Sometimes they get crazy and like a paragraph and a half. And then you're like, wow, this is wild. I know everything I need to know.
Yeah.
So this is not a normal affidavit, but it's regardless of the truth of the contents or if that's what the evidence ends up showing, it paints a really terrifying picture.
Oh, it's a movie.
Yeah.
100%.
It's scary. But they go through different phases of the investigation. It was interesting because they didn't talk about the investigation on the news, which is how it should be.
That part they did very well.
Yep. And then we find out later on that they had him as a flagged person of interest, potentially due to his vehicle at Washington State University. So they've been watching him for a couple of months.
Yep.
So one of the big things I think that we obviously need to talk about is how they flagged him down, which was the car. Ish.
So so a couple things that struck me as I'm watching this.
Yep.
First, maybe the guy did a great job or gal did a great job, but the person signing off on the probable cause statement has an entire 4 years of history of experience. Now, there was a lot of other resources put into that, but that's something that struck me. But yeah, the vehicle, this is a classic example of the ability of law enforcement to harness cameras.
Yes.
Cameras that record public activity that are going on in broad daylight, in the middle of the night, webcams of the food truck.
Yep.
There was a bunch of things where they just
that was a live stream of a Twitch.
On Twitch.
Yeah, which is primarily for gaming.
Right. Well, they're twitching. Apparently, there is a food truck that twitches their food truck action in Moscow, Idaho.
Yep.
And that's how they pieced together the time frame of when the victims got home.
Yep.
Where they were beforehand. Of course, they had all been out on the evening.
They were out.
They were out on
late.
Moscow till like 2 a.m, doing what college kids do. But so the vehicle thing, they pulled camera footage from these different cameras.
Yep.
And came up. They sent it to the FBI for help, and the FBI, claims that the vehicle matched the general description, though, of a white Hyundai Elantra.
Yep.
with between 2011 and 2016.
So another interesting thing is when they first came out to the public, they had said, I think it was 2011 to 2013, and then changed.
They broadened it.
They did broaden it. So that's an obvious cross-examining point, I would suppose.
I would think so. And then there was a license plate issue, 1 license plate versus 2 license plates, which allowed them to claim that, well, it was initially, and I believe the suspect's vehicle was initially registered in Pennsylvania, which only gives 1 license plate, and then was registered after the event in Washington, which gives 2 license plates.
Yep.
And Idaho gives 2 license plates. So they use that. Again, very general. I would say at this point, as a criminal defense attorney, you're like, you don't have a license plate number.
Yeah.
You don't have a definitive make and model. But then, again, this is a digital case.
Yeah.
They get in, and then, like you said, they get into the phone.
Yep.
Or phone information. What were your thoughts on that?
So we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The cell phone tower. Mm-hmm. My phone pinged to Kansas yesterday.
Did it?
After we talked about it.
Okay.
I was like putting in my Apple ID for New York Times. I needed to read a super pressing New York Times article last night. And it pinged to Kansas. Do you trust this cell phone logging into your account? And I sat there and I was like, well, we did just talk about that today.
But before we talked about it, what was your initial reaction to the cell phone information? What was the cell phone information?
Well, the cell phone information that they're giving out, or that was in the probable cause affidavit, shows that the cell phone was in the area several times before the night of the murders and was in the area the night of the murders and then turned off.
Okay.
Or lost service.
My favorite is the words that you got to look at the words they use. They make a difference. The phone was utilizing cellular tower resources that serve Moscow, Idaho.
Yep.
What in the hell does that mean? And that's where we talked about, from the defense perspective, we know cellular tower resources you can get bounced from tower to tower to tower to tower before you are able to have that cellular resource. And so in the defense perspective, I'm looking at this. I'm like, Moscow, Idaho. How big is Moscow, Idaho? How many cell towers do they have? That's some things that you're going to want to know. Moscow, Idaho, according to Wikipedia, about 25,000 people population, 6.9 square miles. Now, looking at that information as well, the suspect is connected to Pullman, Washington. He went to school, PhD student in Pullman, Washington. How far away is Pullman, Washington from Moscow, Idaho?
Like 10 miles, 15-minute drive.
9 miles. 9 miles. 8.6 miles direct, but 9 miles. That's not far. That's from here to what, downtown?
Yeah.
Here to downtown Des Moines, from West Des Moines to downtown Des Moines. Not far at all. So suddenly, we're feeling good. Maybe there's some things to work with. Cell phone towers aren't going to do it. Maybe he lost service. When you look at the probable cause statement, when service was regained with the phone was about another 9 miles southeast of Moscow.
Yep.
Not in between Pullman and Moscow.
Yep.
I'm betting that there is currently a feverish hunt for a murder weapon in that area.
Yes.
But so there's some things with that. But if you looked at it, what's the biggest damning evidence from that probable cause statement?
The sheath.
The sheath of what?
The knife.
The Rambo knife.
The Rambo.
Do you think it was our pedal
Full
bike guy?
circle.
I wonder if it's pedal bike guy with the Rambo knife.
No, because remember, he didn't have a sheath.
Oh,
that's why he kept getting pulled over, was because they said he shouldn't have an exposed Rambo knife on his pedal bike.
Maybe his sheath got taken by some college kids in Idaho. I don't know.
Too bad it doesn't say there's two different male DNA on there. Then we might know.
So what's the deal with the DNA?
There's one. I'm losing train of thought of how to say this. One male. What would it be called? One specimen. One
suspect.
One male suspect
comes back to one person.
Yep.
On the button of the sheath, and then they go and they haven't matched it to him yet, but I'm guessing there's currently DNA analysis now that they've arrested him.
Yes. No, they connected it to him.
They have now.
Before. Yeah.
Okay. So how did they connect it to him before, though?
They
Look at it. This is so much fun. It comes
were
full
little raccoons in the trash. They did a trash rip to get the DNA.
They did a trash rip. We've been talking about trash rips all last year. And in this case, they go and do a trash rip in Pennsylvania of the suspect's dad's or parents' house.
Yep.
And then they use the dad's, what they believe to be the father's DNA to trace it to him and the DNA on the sheath.
Yep.
That's a problem.
That's a problem for him.
But they may want to call Dope Yoda and ask about how to successfully defend trash rips, right?
Seems like Pennsylvania might have trash rips for a while after this one. They might not lean into that.
It's not going to
with
help.
these circumstances. Helps a little bit when we're talking like drugs or.
So, and here's the thing that that hit me too when we were talking about the trash rip thing is for a defendant to successfully complain about evidence and how it's obtained as a violation, it has to violate their constitutional right.
Yeah, standing.
So would the defendant have standing to complain about the trash rip from his parents' house that matched his father that then connected to him?
No.
That's a law review article waiting to
That
happen.
is. Yeah, I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like it might be more complicated because he's like home on Christmas break.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But nothing the parents could do to challenge it. They're not the ones.
They can't
That are
suppress
in
it
the
on
position.
his behalf.
Yeah.
So there's a little mind twist, mind teaser.
Interesting.
So
Well, maybe Pennsylvania would take up the trash rip, but he wouldn't have standing.
yeah, they got to call the Dope Yoda.
Dope Yoda's on his way.
Right. So quick, we'll wrap this up. What do you think's going to happen evidentiary wise? What do you think what do you think we're going to come up with?
I mean, they're going to phone dump Google searches, looking through Google history based on your Google account, which people might not know that, but your Google email, everyone I feel like has a Gmail account. Mm-hmm. How do you live in 2023 without a Gmail account? And it tracks your movement on the internet.
Yep.
So they're going to be looking for that, social media accounts. God, I don't know. I don't know much else. I mean, I think that there's like big talk about his major and that he's getting a PhD in full disclosure. I majored in the exact same things as him in college, and I would not be a proficient serial killer based on my education. Yeah. Which also, like, maybe he's not either, apparently, because
if what they have, yeah, I mean
if what they have comes out at trial to play out as this story that was told in the affidavit, it'll be one of the like scariest, most horrific murders in the United States that I've lived through.
Well, if I'm defending it, I'm blaming the two people that supposedly saw it all and or that were eyewitnesses. Yeah. I mean, who says they didn't do it? What did you do to rule them out? All that fun stuff. If only this age group was millennials, we could call it the millennial Moscow murder. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they qualify.
No,
I think
they're
young.
Gen they're definitely
Zers.
Whichever one I am.
They're younger.
But because they're younger than me. Not that I remember, so that doesn't help. But.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. It's hard to. They painted a good picture in it. They did a good job with the telling a story, which doesn't always happen, and it'll be interesting to see
what comes.
It's hard to fight my natural tendency to not believe anything in a probable cause affidavit.
Something's going to be there, and more. There's more to come. There's going to be a lot more to come. But it's. I think what's impressive about this case is the digital work, like the data driven police investigation.
Yep.
Which a lot of places struggle with. And they did
a good job bringing the FBI in right away.
That was the smartest thing they did.
I think it if anything, it might scare someone in the future knowing like people don't see the everyday policing behind big cases.
Everything's on camera.
Yeah.
Everything is being tracked. Your phone is a resource of a lot of things. And I think that's going to come out. We'll have to wait and see what happens with
Yeah.
it. It'll be interesting to follow.